The moving truck was still idling in the driveway when I first saw what had been done to my new home. Just 6 months ago, Google Street View had shown a lush canopy of towering pines and sycamores shading the property. Now, there was nothing but churned-up dirt and a scattering of wood chips. My dream house, the one I'd spent years scraping together every penny to buy for its century-old trees, looked like a desolate construction site. My chest tightened as I stood there, staring at the barren yard. "You must be the new owner," a voice called out, sharp and overly cheerful. I turned to see a woman striding across the street, her posture radiating authority. Her badge, glinting in the late afternoon sun, read President, Willow Creek Homeowners Association. "I'm Margaret Ellison. Welcome to the neighborhood." Her tailor blazer and smug smile screamed control freak. I forced myself to stay calm. "What happened to my trees?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fury bubbling inside. Margaret's smile stretched wider, as if she'd been waiting for this. "Oh, those overgrown weeds? Don't worry, I handled it before you arrived." "You're welcome." The previous owner had no clue about proper landscaping. All those pine needles and branches were a total eyesore, practically begging for a wildfire. "I had a crew tidy things up last week. Looks so much cleaner now, don't you think?" "My name's Ethan Caldwell, and I'm a forestry consultant by trade. I'd chosen this house in Willow Creek, a quiet suburb outside Seattle, for those exact trees Margaret had just dismissed. The listing had showcased 9 majestic trees, including 3 ancient Douglas firs, each at least 90 years old, and a stunning sycamore that would have blazed red in autumn. "You cut down my trees," I said, the words heavy as I processed her casual confession. "Without my permission. Before I even moved in." She waved a hand, as if swatting away a fly. "Oh, come on. You should be grateful. Do you know how much maintenance those things would have cost? The needles alone would have clogged your gutters for years. And don't get me started on the fire risk. As HOA president, it's my job to keep this community safe and maintain property values." I pulled out my phone, opening the folder with my property documents. "These trees were a key part of my purchase agreement," I said, showing her the photos. "They were why I bought this place." "Did you even get permits to remove them?" For a split second, her confidence wavered, but she quickly recovered. "Permits for landscaping? Please. The HOA has full authority to handle safety issues. It's all in the bylaws." "You did read the bylaws, didn't you?" I had, in fact, read every word of those 52 pages before signing the papers. It's a habit of mine, especially with HOAs. And nowhere did it grant Margaret Ellison or anyone else the right to chop down trees on private property without the owner's consent. The next morning, I made 3 calls. First, to the city's Environmental Protection Office. Second, to a lawyer specializing in property disputes. Third, to an arborist I'd collaborated with on conservation projects. By lunchtime, the answers I got made my stomach churn. No permits had been filed for tree removal at my address. Worse, the arborist, Sarah Linden, confirmed from photos and stump remnants that 3 of the trees were protected species under local ordinances. The Douglas firs alone were valued at $25,000 each for their age and ecological role. Sarah arrived that afternoon, her face grim as she surveyed the damage. "These cuts are fresh, maybe a week old," she said, kneeling by a massive stump. "This fir was over 90 years old. Look at these rings survived the 1965 flood, the 89 windstorm. It was a piece of history." She measured each stump, took soil samples, and snapped photos. "The sycamore would have boosted your property value by $10,000. Its shade could have saved you hundreds in cooling costs annually. And those firs? They were part of the state's heritage tree registry. Cutting them down without approval is a felony." I blinked, stunned. "A felony?" "Class D," Sarah nodded. "Up to $30,000 in fines per tree and 5 years in prison, though it's usually settled civilly unless there's clear malicious intent." I thought of Margaret's smug grin, her flippant tone. If that wasn't malice, I didn't know what was. Margaret found out about the city's investigation the same way I died a violation notice taped to her door. I was fixing my mailbox when her voice erupted across the street. "This is outrageous," she shrieked, storming toward me, the crumpled notice in her fist. "How dare you drag the city into a simple neighborhood matter? I was doing you a favor. A favor." I held up Sarah's report. "You destroyed $60,000 worth of protected trees without permits or my consent. That's not a favor, Margaret. That's vandalism and a violation of environmental law." Her face paled as she skimmed the report. 60,000? That's absurd. They were just trees. Protected trees, I corrected, which you'd have known if you checked. Did the HOA board even approve this? Her silence was deafening. She'd acted alone, using HOA funds to fuel her personal crusade against my trees. The emergency HOA meeting 2 days later was packed, the room buzzing with tension. Margaret sat at the head of the table, but her usual swagger was gone. "Before we start," I said, standing to face the crowd, "let's be clear about what happened." Margaret Ellison decided, without board approval or my consent, to remove 9 mature trees from my property, including 3 protected species. She misused HOA funds, broke city ordinances, and may have committed a felony. The room erupted in murmurs. Margaret tried to interrupt, her voice thin. "This is ridiculous. I've upheld this neighborhood's standards for 10 years. But another board member, Tom Rivera, cut her off. "Your standards, not ours." "I checked the records. Margaret, this isn't your first overstep last year's gazebo demolition. The streetlight replacements, all done without approval." The treasurer, visibly shaken, added, "The city's issued $20,000 in fines. Ethan's lawyer is demanding full restitution for the trees, plus restoration costs." Margaret slammed the table. "This is extortion. Those trees were a hazard." A woman in the crowd stood, waving a document. 3 years ago, you tried to make me cut down my cedar, claiming it was dying. I had it tested perfectly healthy. You just hated that it blocked your view." More hands shot up, stories pouring out. Margaret's reign of terror had targeted countless yards. My lawyer, Claire Novak, stood. "My client is prepared to pursue criminal and civil charges for the destruction of $60,000 in protected assets. But he's open to a settlement, full restitution, and complete restoration of the property." The vote was unanimous. Margaret's allies abandoned her. The HOA would pay $60,000, cover legal fees, and hire a landscaper to replant mature trees. "You can't do this," Margaret screamed, her chair crashing backward. "I've run this HOA for a decade, and you've exposed us to massive liability," the treasurer snapped. Motion to remove Margaret Ellison as president, effective immediately. Another unanimous vote. 2 weeks later, restoration began. Trucks rolled in with 9 mature trees, each chosen to mirror what was lost. The crew, led by Javier Ruiz, worked meticulously, using cranes and a deep-root irrigation system. "These trees will thrive," Javier assured me, positioning a 20-foot fir. The neighborhood turned out, some bringing snacks, others volunteering to water. An elderly neighbor, Mrs. Park, handed me a peach cobbler. "We've wanted her gone for years," she whispered. "Thank you for standing up." Even the local news covered it. Standing by a new fir, I told the reporter, "This isn't just about money. These trees clean our air, shelter wildlife, root us to the earth. What happened was an environmental crime, and I hope it's a wake-up call." Across the street, Margaret watched from her window, her face a mask of fury. When the final tree was planted, perfectly framed in my living room view, I swore I saw tears. The settlement check arrived Monday, with an HOA apology and news that Margaret was banned from future board roles. The district attorney was investigating her for misusing funds. I last saw her at the supermarket, trying to dodge me down an aisle. "Margaret," I called brightly, "enjoying the view of my trees?" She whirled, venom in her eyes. "You ruined my life over some stupid plants." "No," I said calmly. "You destroyed $60,000 of my property because you thought you were untouchable. I just held you accountable." The DA charged her with criminal mischief and misappropriation. She got 250 hours of community service with the city's conservation department and a $12,000 fine. Her stunned gasp as the judge read the sentence was the last I heard from Margaret Ellison. What would you do if someone destroyed your property under the guise of helping you? Should HOA presidents have unchecked power, or are stricter oversight laws needed? Was Ethan too harsh, or was Margaret's punishment fair? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that spark debate.